Most people are looking forward to their retirement account, their pension, social security to provide for them when they need it. But I'm here to tell you that your plans need to change because there is so much turmoil going on right now that it's going to disrupt that belief system that you have. We have been used to getting these checks, getting that income from these different sources, but that won't be the case, and it has already started. This is so important for everybody, more so for the younger generations, but it will affect everybody in the next little while. I'm here to tell you why. We're going to look at CBDCs, we're going to talk about inflation, and I'm going to show you what's been happening up until this point. You don't want to miss it because it will hit you hard if you're not aware. Let's begin. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Many workers have only their retirement savings for emergencies. I just heard in a comment today, somebody was talking about this, saying that they heard from other individuals that saying the same thing, that people in their workplace are taking from their 401k in order to deal with their bills. And you could see this, it's a survey, but of course that gives us a good insight as to what's happening. More than 2 in 5, 43% of people said that they considered their retirement funds as their only form of emergency savings. What's going on? Well, the quote is savings rates go down and hardship withdrawals and loans go up. And this is a matter of fact. We could look at the data, we could see it in any different region and any different income bracket. It doesn't matter. Everybody's dealing with basically the same thing, and that is we spend way too much money, we have very little savings, and time again we see whenever there's a crisis, whenever interest rates increase, the problems start to show up. That's what's going on here now. Retirement accounts are there to be basically milked, and then at the end of the day, people can't retire. So I want you to remember that. Keep that in mind. Let me show you the next part. The $45 billion convenience store industry scrambles as inflation catches up with shoppers. So they're basically just talking about how people, that it's an impulse buy. A lot of what you see at the convenience stores are impulse buys, and they're feeling it because people are not doing that. They're making more, trying to be a little bit tighter with their budgets and things, tightening their belts at this time. And that is showing up in the convenience stores. They're increasing their prices just like everywhere else. All of the products that are there are higher that from the input cost that they receive. And so this is showing up as you see it. Inflation is taking a hit on people's ability to spend. That's the next fact. You look at the biz. This is just one example that they are setting up, among other things, Project Orem, a prototype for two-tier central bank digital currency. The point at which I'm, just bringing this to you, and by the way, hilarious that it shows us it's the Latin word for gold, okay? Digital currency, and they're using that. I think it's actually done as a little bit of humor on their part. But I wanted to highlight this because you will be using a central bank digital currency at some point in the future, either directly or indirectly. And they're going through with this. It's not just the biz. It might be your own central bank where you live, and might be a supranational entity like this. We don't really know. But ultimately, they are there, they are coming, and they are being developed right now at this time. And so what does that mean? Why is this important? Well, we are going away from the traditional banking system. On top of that, what used to be there a very, very long time ago, they encountered a way that they can improve on their, let's say profitability, and that was fractional reserve banking. You know about that. Then they went beyond that to derivatives. And now we are going towards central bank digital currencies where we sidestep the banks altogether and we start to do our transactions directly with the central banks. And this becomes very concerning because there's a loss of sovereignty, they have no control, there's no oversight, transparency, and all of these things. So you're going to be using that. And of course, maybe they will have, the suggestion has been that there's a time limit on your spending so that essentially goes down in value. Your bank account, your account, CBDC, goes down, down, down. It has a timer on it. And that was part of the beta test that happened with the Chinese central bank digital currency. Might be just because it's a test, but I could see how, along with universal basic income, how they force people to spend their money. You've got inflation eating away at people from the bottom, and they might put a timer to hit it from the top. So you're being squeezed, and you got to realize what they're going to give you with the universal basic income is not enough to survive. You see, if they gave you enough, you'd be happy. You'd be swimming in it. But instead, they give you less than what's enough so that you're always scrambling. And if you're struggling and scrambling, you're going to be subservient. That's what the future has in store. But to hold on, you're probably thinking, whoa, I don't want to listen to this. It's not true. Well, it is, and I'll show you why, but there's more to it, believe it or not. Let me show you. Let's be informed, and then we'll talk about the pillars of prosperity and other things that I think you should be aware of. Look, cash will become less usable as high street goes contactless, says Bank of England. Now that's something to think about here. We're talking about cash going away. Central bank digital currency coming through. You're going to tap your phone. You'll tap the plastic that you've got. Cash becomes, I saw your comments, by the way. And I think it's really important because you see what happened in 2020. Oh, we don't accept cash. Cash is dirty. So we can't take that anymore. And a lot of stores doing away with it. I can understand completely for a small business that doesn't want to accept cash. It's difficult. At the end of the night, you got to empty the till. You got to take everything away. You got to bring it to the bank. In the morning, you need more cash. You got to bring it back. It's a hassle. It's a safety concern as well. And even I just heard from local market near me, the lady was telling me that even though she opened up the cash register all the way at the end of the night, signaling to any onlookers that there's no cash here, we have nothing, they still smashed the window, they still came in, rummaged around, tried to go in through everything. There's no cash, okay? They want to signal that there is no cash, even though they do take cash and so on. But the point is, I could see a lot of stores just doing away with it because of security problems. The crime is going to increase. That's what's in your future. Increased crime and reduced prosperity. Are you following me here? I've got more to show you. Now this is really key because when you start to connect all these dots, things start to make a lot of sense. But if you only read the titles and the thumbnails, you're never going to get it, okay? That brings me to the next aspect. Inflation is taking a hit. I want to talk about this for a moment. A $300,000 salary feels like $100,000 in the priciest US cities. And that's really the case. You can't just say, oh, if you make 100 grand, if you make 50 grand and all these different things, that, that doesn't really mean anything, even when you're talking about one currency. It's tax season in the US, and nowhere is that felt more acutely than it's in three cities, New York, San Francisco, and Honolulu, where you need a salary of over $300,000 to bring home $100,000 after taxes and adjustments for the cost of living. So if you live in areas that are much more affordable and you're making that $300,000 because maybe you're working from home, maybe you're working online, maybe all these different things that have really changed over the last few years, then it's a different story, right? But if you're living in New York, living in a 100 square foot what they call micro apartment, some would call it a coffin, that it's not exactly the same, really. Depositors pulled nearly $60 billion from 3 US banks as Apple raises pressure. Now here we go. So Apple, working along with Goldman Sachs, has set up a savings account, as you can see in the middle paragraph there, 4.15% interest. Now, compared to the average, fantastic, right? And what do they want? They want people's data, and of course they want that cash on hand. Goldman Sachs, they've got the two together and they're making this happen. So that's one thing. Another note is, wasn't it SVB and I think maybe Signature that were giving out like around this level, I think 4.5% for their savings accounts? Interesting, because that's a big risk, right? Are they going to be able to change that? Is that variable and so on? I don't know all the details, but here we are. And so for this case here, people and their investments, they're going to look for more yield. Why? Because of inflation. And that means they're likely going to take more risk. I wouldn't consider this to be risky, especially when I show you the next part. However, what does it signal? It's that there's demand for more yield. And that really, like a couple years ago, interest rates super low, 0%. People, they weren't going into savings accounts. Money wasn't in that. But now money is shifting there, but it depends on where you look. Some of the banks, like the small banks, they're losing a lot of money. Let me show you this. A free market no more. Rules of the game have changed after banking crisis. And it's important just to understand really quickly that with the banks, what they are doing here now is that they are trying to get the government to promise that no matter how much you've got in the bank, that the FDIC and really the Federal Reserve is going to backstop any and all of that. So the banking crisis is still going on today, especially on the commercial side. Please don't get it twisted. But they have been able to basically push that off to the side and make sure that the media is not going to cover it. At the same time, depositors are saying, I want my money in this place and that place. I don't really want it in the bank. So you've got to watch out. Where you're putting your money is at risk. And that's why I always say diversify into different locations. Make sure at least according to the FDIC, CDIC, or whatever you have protecting your deposits, that you're under that level, because you would think that above that level, uninsured would be the first ones to go, even if, depending on what they do and all the rules changing and everything. At least you want to keep it within the insured level. That's the first thing. Credit unions and things, they're still ultimately with the same risks. Okay, they're kind of doing a lot of the same things. Could be better in some cases. I did a video about that just recently, in fact. But you got to watch out. And at the same time, we can look at this, which is basically just showing us that history shows it often takes decades, if not centuries, for a currency's global reserve status to fade. It often lingers even after its host country's economic power and prestige have peaked. That's according to UBS. Even as great economic powers rise and fall, their currency's reserve status tends to survive well past the peak of their influence. Very important. That's what's happening today for the US dollar. So you're holding US dollars. You've got them in accounts. You see the inflation eating from underneath it. You know that a CBDC is coming, potentially with a timer installed on it, eating away from the top of that. Do you not sense that this is a crisis in the making? All of these points, please let me know. I know I'm speaking to a small audience, but it's the ones who want to be informed and care are the reason why I keep making these videos. All of these dots connect together. And that's why I bring these to you here and now in this video. I want you to know about the pillars of prosperity. Okay? It's so key. I'm going to put this up on the screen. Pillars of prosperity, to learn your increasing income, your preparedness and self-sufficiency on the other side. These two things must be understood. You can take one or the other, you can do both, but you've got to know the pillars of prosperity. Check it out at this video, and I'll see you right over there.